I'm going to ask that we call the meeting to order. Hopefully Peter will be arriving shortly. And we can have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
How'd you get tea
I brought it.
and hot water? Oh, I see it.
I brought it from home.
Very
Let's
good.
take the roll.
Mark's all right.
Like Russian, and
David Kent,
Here?
Stephanie Halter,
Yeah.
Peter Julia,
Not yet, anyway.
Malik Hammond,
I here.
Tom McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Let's notice that on the agenda, Butch Cushing's name came up.
I saw that and I really wondered if he was still on it.
That'd be wonderful, but he isn't.
He isn't on it.
So
Okay.
the first thing we have to do is scratch his name from the agenda. And we can move on to the review of the minutes of the previous meeting.
It's pretty extensive, huh?
That was a good one.
It's been a while since we've met.
Yep.
January.
Yep. Sure, I'll make a motion to approve him.
Motion's been made.
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes as distributed?
Aye.
Aye. They've been approved. Has there been any progress on that application?
Thank you for the minutes, Joseph.
You're welcome. That's the school,
Yes.
the charter school. Yes, they received a conditional site plan approval from the planning board. And so they're currently working on meeting those conditions, and they'll be coming back before the planning board for a compliance hearing to show their progress on the conditions in April, I believe.
Does construction begin or anything, or is it still awaiting approval?
We have not heard any timeline on construction yet, but they have a couple of conditions that the planning board had placed that are still in progress. Well, a couple, and I apologize, I don't have the notice of decision, but they did relate to largely the parking area, some of the pedestrian access and lighting in the parking area for the school drop-off zone.
Uh-huh. Okay. Anybody else have any questions about that? Too bad Peter's not here because he sits on that board. All right. Let's see. We have an application for a special exception for 227 Cummins Hill Road. Application is from David Clay for a special exception in accordance with the zoning ordinance under section 304 to establish a lumberyard use in the agricultural zoning district. Is there a representative here of the proponent?
I'm David Clay.
Okay, you want to go up there and explain to us what it is you hope to do? And
You want me right up here to stand?
That'd be
yes, we
great.
do. Before you start, I want to explain something. Currently, we expected 5 people to be here. We got a message the fellow was coming. He isn't here. Now, we can hold off for a bit. You're entitled to have a full board.
Okay.
And we only have 4 of us here.
Okay.
So we can either wait a little while or we can go forward. If we go forward,
Let's go forward.
you want to go forward,
Yeah.
okay? Let the minutes reflect that the proponent wants to go forward with the 4 instead of, and if Peter comes, maybe we can get him to join in. Okay, go right ahead, sir.
So I have a sawmill up there. It's currently being used when I can. And so I understand in the special exemption that a lumberyard special exemption is production of lumber. And all I'm doing up there is running the sawmill, and all I'm producing is boards and beams, and I'm wholesaling it. It's going to a local lumber yard, and that's all we're doing up there.
Okay.
It's just a sawmill. It's a portable sawmill. It's circular saw, but it's still portable. Has a factory hitch on it. Has a sticker on it. You can't pull over 30 mile an hour. I have a building permit for a 30 by 100 pole barn to put that in. So
Can you explain to us what a pole barn is?
it's just a barn made out of telephone poles.
Okay, is it like an umbrella over the work, or does it have sidewalls, or the doors, or what is
It
it?
will have sidewalls. It's gonna have a open in the front, so you can put logs in there. And then I have another open on this side, so you can take lumber out, and then the back's gonna be all enclosed.
I see.
It's just so you stick poles in the ground, and you go up however high you want it, and then build your roof and all that. That's all it is.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members?
You're using it for wholesale on the lumber?
Yep.
Specifically, when you both bring in the raw timbers and also the milled lumbers, in which direction are you exiting the property?
Just
Down the hill towards 3 or up the hill towards Texas?
mostly down the hill towards 3. So it's just a short distance right there.
What do you do in the months when the road is closed for heavy traffic?
I have a little trailer, so it doesn't really affect me much.
Bringing in the big logs and all, or?
It's just a little trailer. It can only hold like 4 or 5 logs, so it's a 3-axle trailer. Yeah. So it's
when
under GVW.
So,
I mean, it's under road band.
so it's under the qualifications for a road ban?
Yes.
Okay. Have you discussed with people in your neighborhood about the hours of operation or anything?
Yeah, they're all fine with it.
They're all fine with it?
It's been in operation for 2 years now, and one neighbor, I'm milling their logs for them. There's another neighbor right down the road who wants me to mill their logs for them. So the neighbor below me doesn't have an issue with it. The neighbor above me doesn't have an issue with it. The neighbor across the street is town of Plymouth, and the one behind me is Ahern.
How about Benoit or Benoit? I don't know how they say it.
What do you mean?
Those people are near you?
Yep, they're below me. They're all fine with it.
They're fine with it?
Yep.
Okay.
So can I ask a question? The logs that you're milling up don't come from your own property?
Nope.
They don't come from the lot, so you bring them in,
Yeah, I buy the logs.
you buy the logs, okay?
Yep.
And how often do you bring in a load of logs?
It's roughly probably a log truckload a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how often does the lumber go out? Is it about the same schedule?
Same week, usually. Yep. As soon as I mill it, it gets sent that same week.
Got it.
Yeah, nothing really sticks around. There's boards up there that need to be edged. I just haven't got around to edging them yet. And once those get edged, then they get sent that same week. So
And do you
nothing-
have normal, kind of regular hours that you bring the lumber in and out from, or?
Yeah, we usually start the mill up around 7:30, and we usually go till 2, 3 o'clock.
In the afternoon?
Yeah.
And is that 5 days a week? Or
5 days a
7?
week.
5 days a week. Not on the weekends?
Sometimes weekends.
Sometimes weekends.
Yep.
I'm a little,
Usually not in the evenings or before 7:30 in the morning?
Sometimes we'll fire it up during the summertime at 7, but usually never before 7.
I'm a little confused. You said you bring the logs in on your trailer as well?
Yes, during road bans, we also have a small little 6-wheeler that's under the road band. We can put some on there. We load light. We got permission from the road agent to haul in the mornings when it's real cold,
Yeah,
when the road's frozen. He was fine with that.
sure.
Yep.
Okay.
During the summertime, I can get log trucks up there because there's no road band or anything, so.
So you don't store logs awaiting to be cut? You get them and they sort of go in and out regularly, or do you store stuff there?
No, they go right in and right out regularly.
Will the,
So there's only, right now I probably have about 4,000 to 6,000 board feet up there in logs right now. And that will get milled up this week and sent out.
and how do you move them around, sir?
I have a loader up there,
Use a loader?
yes.
Okay.
When you bring in the raw logs, is that on, for a layman, one of those standard log trucks
Yes,
with the claw and
Yes.
probably about 3/4 the length of
Ordinance.
a Mack truck?
yeah, if it's not road band. If it's not road band.
If it's
During road band, I either haul it with my trailer or I have a little 6-wheeler that's under road band limit. I haul it with
When
that.
are the road bans?
All the road bands are currently on now, so. March to May 1st, or whenever they pull them.
It's sort of weather dependent, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Now,
Go ahead.
you specifically say that the Benoits or Benoits are fine with it?
Yep. To my knowledge, they are.
Okay.
Can I ask?
Did you have to, because this is a commercial, do you have to get with the fire department to talk about this?
No.
No. Yes, Tom?
Bob, you got a 2-acre lot, right?
Yes.
You say there's a sawmill and a lumberyard. I mean, a lumberyard, I think of up to Rumney there, you know, quick check.
I wholesale to him. I wholesale to Brookside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So this is a sawmill, but for me to get, the town wants me to get a lumberyard exemption permit. So in that lumberyard exemption permit, it specifies in there production of lumber, which a sawmill and a lumberyard are two different things.
Yeah.
And I've had an argument with the town saying it's a sawmill, it's not a lumberyard, and they're two different things.
How did you,
And also, there's no town ordinance against the sawmill in its zone agricultural, and the sawmilling is agricultural.
the-
It requires a special exception in our ordinance,
for what?
a lumberyard.
For a lumberyard?
You want me to read the definition for the lumberyard from our town ordinance? Because I do have it here.
Okay. Okay, so you want to have a lumberyard, like up to Rumney, where you wholesale to, and you want to have a sawmill, like, I don't know, where's the nearest sawmill, what up to, probably up to Warren there, Wentworth, right?
No, all I want to
King
do is
sawmill?
run my sawmill, that's it. That's
Okay.
all I want to do. I don't want to have a lumberyard there. I just want to run my sawmill.
Okay,
Excuse me just a second, Tom. Is sawmill defined? Do we have a definition of sawmill?
We do.
Would you direct us to that?
Sure, yeah, if you have a zoning ordinance, that is gonna be on, in the definition section, which is Article 2.
I have
So
that.
that is, it's also on the second page of the staff report, if you have that in front of you. but it is on page 7 of the Plymouth zoning ordinance as well.
Page 7.
Where on the staff report?
It's on the,
Page,
you have to have the zoning ordinances.
oh, sorry, I apologize. It's the
Alec.
first page of the staff report, the 7th page
Bullet
of the
number 4 on the staff report, first page.
All right, let me get that out.
But again, that's the definition for a lumberyard, not the
Correct, but if you
definition
read it,
for.
it says the lumberyard may also process lumber by performing millwork, planning, cutting, and other customizing processes. So it
Correct,
does,
but I think David's question, and if
Do they
it's
define
not,
sawmill
is
separately?
there a separate definition specifically only for sawmill?
Not to my
Didn't
knowledge for
find one.
sawmill,
Okay.
no. For
It says,
lumberyard,
a lumberyard is defined as a facility where building materials such as lumber, plywood, drywall, paneling, cement block, and other cement products, and other building products are stored and sold. Right, which I think that definition doesn't really align with what he's doing.
Correct.
But then it says lumberyards may also process lumber by performing millwork, planning, cutting, and other customizing processes. Lumberyards may provide for the sale of associated products, including tools and fasteners.
Yeah.
So it's processing lumber by performing millwork, planning, cutting. That's what I think lumberyard is, this all-encompassing tool term.
It's sort of included in the definition of a lumberyard.
Yeah,
What, a sawmill?
yeah.
Yes. It is, Tom.
Okay. I got a
It's
question.
listed as one of the items that a lumberyard has.
You know, okay.
I think lumberyard here is used as a broad catch-all term for lots of different kinds of wood sailing product businesses, right? Whether that's producing, whether that's getting and selling, right? Getting it and selling it. So it's a catch-all term here. And that might not be what everybody uses in the everyday nomenclature.
Okay.
Am I up?
Is that,
Am I up?
is that all you got to say? Any other questions from the
Yeah,
board?
I did. You know, you write this, and you do this intermittent with the portable sawmill. There's quite a few people around that have those Alaskan sawmills. They're, you know, all in one piece, and got a little engine there, and they cut your stuff up. You say that the portable sawmill is operating in conformance with all regulations related to a business use of a residential property. Is this supposed to go to site plan review to have a business on the property? I mean, this isn't like you got a, you know, maple syrup stand there. You got a major business there.
Well, it ain't too major. I mean, we ain't King Forest here.
What?
We're not King Forest. We're
Yeah,
not
but
too
you-
major.
Okay, well, you got
Right.
a great big truck that's hitched up to this sucker. It's not a little,
You're allowed to have a business in agricultural zoning.
But the question is, does the planning board have to, that's really his question, does the planning board have to pass on this?
well, you're supposed to, if you're taking a lot and putting it into a business use, like sawmill, you're supposed to have a site plan review. And that would have bumped them over to us, and
Well, you know, it's always chicken and egg. Do you come here first, or do you go there first? Is this application going to go forward to the planning board if we pass this?
I would have to say I'm not aware of an application that's been brought before the planning board at this time, or any request to get before the planning board at this time. But as you say, it would, if it meets the scope of review of the site plan regulations, then it could very well have to.
We've got to make believe that this is starting from scratch. I understand he's been operating it for a period of time.
Right,
It's about to become legal, as I see what's going on here.
yeah.
So if he came in as a brand-new applicant, says, I want to run a sawmill, would he have to start with the planning board and then come here, or could he come here and then go to the planning board? Or would the planning board be exempt from going to planning board?
So a change of use to a commercial would typically require a site plan review in most cases, but it could go to either one first, I suppose,
Right.
in most
Well,
cases.
then I think
So,
one of the conditions we're gonna have to deal with, Tom, is if we pass this, he's gonna have to go to site, a condition would have to be to go get site plan review.
Well, I mean, yeah, and they would want to know what the setbacks are and what the
That's-
lot plan
that's a-
is going to be.
That's their issue, yes, right.
He didn't do that in his application already for the pole barn? Right,
Well, they
'cause-
got an application for a pole barn, but that's like a lot of people have these pole barns. It's, you put your cordwood in there. or
Well,
something
it's a pole barn, but it's a 30 by 100 pole barn, so it's a good sized pole barn.
That's a good sized building.
And they approved it.
Who's
Who
the-
approved
who's
it, the
the they?
town or the
That-
planning board?
The building inspector at the time was Scott Whedon, and he approved it.
He approved it as a pole barn.
Is a
It
pole
was
barn?
just an open, just
I made out a site plan and everything, and he approved it.
with the sawmill. You showed him the sawmill.
I told him there was a sawmill. It said right in the description. It was either to store things in it, and it's supposed to have a portable sawmill, and he approved it.
Okay,
Says it right in the description,
we
and
can,
I have a signed building permit.
we can deal that with, conditions that we can deal with when we get to decide what we're gonna do.
I've got one more question. It says on here in number 6, several other portable sawmills are and have been operated in town. Currently, do you know where others are being used for? Is that for commercial use or for personal use?
They're sawmills. I don't know if they're being used for residential or commercial, but they're all sawmills. There's 9 of them in town. They're these little push wood miser ones. Some of them are hydraulic. I know one of them is commercial use. It's on Loon Lake Road. Also, there's a selectman in town that has a sawmill. That's Neil.
For personal use or for
I don't know, but he does have a sawmill.
for
There's
commercial use?
one on Loon Lake Road that is for commercial use. He has a high-end sawmill, band sawmill.
Because I think there is a
Way
difference,
hydraulic.
right? I think I think there is a distinction between using it for commercial use, which is very regular and constant, than sporadic kind of personal use for like sawing up your own logs to build something every once in a while. I do think there is a distinction there, and because yours is commercial, I would just say here that I would want you to really compare yourself with other commercial portable sawmills, right? I think that's a fair comparison.
Yeah, and there's one on Loon Lake Road.
There's one on Loon Lake Road.
Yep. And there's also, well, there used to be Yettins down there, and I heard that there's another sawmill in there, so,
In Yettins.
yeah.
Ireland had a sawmill
Ireland,
for
that-
years and years.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was,
Yep.
that was a sawmill.
That was a real sawmill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what
that
do you-
was,
what
that
do you-
was bigger than mine.
What are you powering this thing with?
Power it with a truck that's cut in half, and it's hooked up to the drive shaft to the blade. So it runs out the transmission of the truck. The truck is just a powerhouse for the mill. That's
Yeah,
all it is, and it's all,
What's like the horsepower of this thing then?
the
size
truck,
of-
it's
the
like,
size of
It's
the
a-
block is-
it's like, well, it's
550?
about 260 horse, something like that.
okay.
Diesel motor.
All right.
All it is a DT 360 International.
It's an international truck for the highway, and you rigged it onto a saw blade.
Okay,
And it's all portable because that truck can get put on a trailer, and all it's hooked together is with a slip joint. So it has a U joint here and a U joint here, and like on a big truck from the rear end to the transmission, there's a slip joint right there. Or the center bearing on a truck, there's a slip joint right there because when your rear end goes up and down, then it's got to go in and out. So all it is hooked together with a slip joint. I can have it behind a pickup and on a trailer in less than an hour. So
what's the distance between you and your neighbors' houses? Do you know?
it's over 100 feet.
Over 100 feet.
Between the sawmill and
Between
their
the
house?
sawmill and the neighbor down below is probably 200 feet, maybe more. And then the sawmill to the neighbor above, that's probably another 200 feet.
Can I
Probably
ask,
more,
can
actually.
I ask this board, how many, I visited the site. Did other people do a site visit?
No.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I'd estimate it closer to 100 yards at least.
Yeah, so that's
From-
300 feet.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
No,
Okay. You can have a seat.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody on television? Do you know?
There are a few folks on Zoom. I don't know if any of them are here for testimony or not.
That's the proponent's matter. Are there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak on this matter? I'll speak at once. Okay.
Before we close it,
Correspondence, we have received a letter related to this. So I think we ought to take a moment and look through that letter.
Did you want me to read that publicly?
Okay,
I can do that, because I'm a
good reader.
teacher. Right? That's just what
Get
teachers
stuck in the
do,
words.
right?
Okay.
Okay, I read things out. Okay, it says regarding the special exception application for the lumberyard at 227 Cummings Hill Road to the Plymouth, New Hampshire Select Board. This was received on March 4th, 2024. And this letter comes from Spencer and Kimberly Benoit. My wife and I would like to thank the town of Plymouth for their attention to this matter, as well as their efforts to come to a meaningful resolution with the sawmill at 227 Cummings Hill Road. We would also like to thank David Clay and his family for their assistance in getting us through this winter by keeping our driveway clear of snow, which was a task we were woefully unprepared for. Our family looks forward to building ties and living peacefully within this community. We have a few concerns regarding the proposed zoning exemption that we would appreciate being taken into consideration. The first is adherence to the proposed operating schedule in the application. There has been a history of the sawmill operating outside of specific hours on specific days agreed upon with the town. We are concerned that this zoning exemption would allow for the continued disregard and agreed upon limitations. Furthermore, we are concerned that there will be little in the way of recourse or accountability for these such instances should they continue if an exemption is granted. We are also concerned that the noise hazard to our about the noise hazard to our property. Item 3 on page 5 of the New Hampshire ZBA application asks to explain how the use as developed will not adversely affect the character of the area in which the proposed use will be located. The answer in this application is the portable sawmill does not damage nor affect the character of the area in any way. And this is a quote from the application. The portable sawmill has been in use for 2 years, and a building permit has already been granted to construct the rebuilt barn covering the sawmill. In response to this, I argue that the noise from the sawmill presents a hazard to those in the immediate area. My wife and I purchased our home with the intent of using the 2 acres separating my home from the sawmill for agriculture. We had plans of raising animals and crops in that area. The noise from the sawmill has presented a safety hazard in that portion of my property, requiring the use of hearing protection when working on that side of the house. It is also a concern that the excessive noise would create a stressful and unstable space to keep animals. The noise from the sawmill is effectively preventing us from using our land for its rightfully zoned purposes. Our family is also concerned that the agreement is not clear about the final construction of the pole barn. When the town proposes that the operations happen within the barn, does that mean that the machinery and operations are enclosed within walls? Or does the barn simply act as an awning? We feel that this is an important distinction to establish in the agreement so that there is effective mitigation of the noise hazard in place. We also have a question regarding if the clever power plant for this sawmill will be enclosed. My wife and I would like to find a solution to this issue. We deeply respect David Clay and his family's right to use their property how they see fit, but it may be argued that this right ends when it infringes upon my family's right to use our property as it was rightfully zoned. We hope to find a solution in which we can all live and work alongside each other peacefully and respectfully. God bless and best regards, Spencer and Kimberly Benoit.
Question here. We talk about enforcement, and I'd like to have that
You
clarified.
gotta speak up so that they can.
They talk about enforcement. It's been mentioned a few times, and I'd like to have it clarified. So if he's agreed not to run it Saturday morning, and he gets up and decides to cut a little bit up, catch up, and they have a problem, who do they call? You can't call the police. The police don't want anything to do with this. Joseph's not gonna give everybody a cell phone number, and even then, what can you do?
Oh, we have a code enforcement officer, and
We do now, yeah.
that's
And
his,
what would he do if he comes out to the site?
I don't know
Okay,
what he would do.
I don't know either.
You know, he'd have to bring it to the attention of the town would have to decide the selectmen would have to decide what they chose to do. He would report the violation, and the selectmen would have to decide what to do. In some cases, they've taken people to court. In other cases, they've just issued a warning. It really becomes an administrative decision that they have to make. I agree with you, the police probably wouldn't do anything.
No.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Can you check to make sure that there's nobody on TV that wants to speak?
Yeah, is anybody, if anybody is having trouble unmuting or anything, you can send a message on Zoom perhaps, or put your hand up and I can try to work through that, or, unmute yourself at this time.
What is it, optional when you call in on the Zoom? You can give your name, or you don't have to give your
Well,
name?
they can't speak without giving their name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No answer. Is that correct? Okay,
Nothing received.
all right. I'm going to close the public hearing. And we'll move on to the discussion amongst the board. We have the criteria that we have to examine. Let's have a discussion, though, before we get down to the individual questions and the criteria. Any thoughts? You've actually visited the property. I went by it a week or so ago.
I went up there around 5 o'clock tonight just to, on my way to pick up my daughter, and my initial thoughts were concerned for the road as it applies to were concerns for the road of a large logging vehicle. Regardless of mud season or not, it's a very tight road, and from start to finish, I think there will be a less concern going up Texas or towards Texas Hill, because that is the entirety of it is paved. I think where you have the unpaved portions coming off of Route 3, and combined with the tightness, and combined with the recreational use of hiking in that area of where there's a tight turn, I would have, that's one of my biggest concerns of having big logging trucks coming through there.
Rainbow Falls.
Rainbow Falls, yes.
Yeah, Walter Newton,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that area, I mean, there's tons of kids, et cetera, that go around there, and that was my first thought. As far as beyond that, it's actually a pretty impressive setup, as far as the ingenuity, the truck. As far as the the quantity of dust there, sawdust, it's apparent that you're using it frequently.
Yeah, and that's also gonna be part of the pole barn is enclosing that area with sawdust, and the sawdust be inside of the building.
The footprint for the poles did not meet the currently. We're definitely not 30 by 100 as laid out. Rough guesstimate would be about 30 by 30 so far, which it's obviously not complete. So that was kind of my first impression.
Is it before the turn as you head up?
No, it's after. So
It's after?
if you hit Walter Newman, take the left across the little bridge, whatever, and then you hit the other part of the S-turn, you come up, and it's right there on the crest. And now if you keep on going, you get to Texas Hill, and that's paved.
Sort of midway between
Yeah.
Route 3 and the Big Rock,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
It's about a half mile, I think, past Walton Newton.
Okay.
Uh,
So the concerns that we're going to address, one was whether we can't, and this is my opinion on this matter, because it's been operated in the past, doesn't give it a grandfathering situation here, because it wasn't operated in accordance with the statute. And there's no forgiveness in that. It's starting from scratch now. I think, as you do, Tom, that the planning board's got to be involved in terms of the siting of the building and the impact on the land. And I don't think,
Rezoning.
Scott doesn't have the authority to grant a building permit without a site plan review, does he?
So the building inspector could grant a building permit, but for anything that falls under site plan review, that would have to be by the planning board, if it meets that criteria.
Okay.
Joseph, can I ask one more question of you? Do you know if there are other commercial sawmill operations in town that are doing so with the blessing of the special exception?
I apologize, I don't have
okay.
that information. I'm not sure.
Basically, the sawmill could be,
The hours of operation,
like he's saying, it's like a trailer.
the hours,
The-
the hours of operation in the application don't match the hours that he spoke about when he described how he uses his
Correct.
sawmill. There's a variance there.
Where are the hours in the application, David?
Was it in the application or was it on the staff report?
Well, let's check that out.
I think it was a staff report. Because it was 9 to 5, basically, or 9 to 4. 9 to 4. Bottom of page 2, or middle of page 2.
I see.
Last bullet on comments and recommendations.
That's suggested conditions of approval, though, right?
Suggested conditions.
The 9 to 4, Monday to Friday, except for legal holidays. So I don't know, is that, in terms of the businesses, agricultural is a mixed zone, right? Are there set rules for operation of businesses in the agricultural zone?
There are no particular rules
Yeah,
in the
no.
ag zone that dictate that. No.
Yeah,
I think it's for us to determine
yeah. I mean, we've definitely have a
the impact on the
concern.
neighborhood.
Yeah,
That's what our job is to look at.
yeah.
I would add to what Malik said. Going into Walter Newton on that road, there is one porch. The guy's porch is like
On the road,
probably 18 feet to the center line of the road.
yeah.
It's, and I was on the board when Walter Newton came in, and those neighbors were very gracious, but they were very impacted.
Okay. Well, every case is independently judged, so that's
That's
what we,
true.
that's what we have to do.
Not really making a correlation, it's different.
All right, well, let's go to work on the criteria that we have to meet, and we'll have to make some findings of fact. So the first finding of fact is that an application for a... Tom doesn't speak loudly enough.
No whispering.
Who's got a suggestion? Who's got a suggestion for a finding of fact?
I've got a couple that I started with, but do you want to start with that we've received an application for a special exception for a sawmill by David Clay at 227 Cummings Hill Road. It's a 2-acre lot.
I think you have to
And it
include the
is-
word lumberyard in
I
it
think it's
somewhere.
two
I
and
think,
some
I
change.
think we
isn't it?
do, I think that's a separate, finding a
separate.
fact for me.
Okay,
But I think he calls it a sawmill, so I wanted to call it the sawmill, what he calls it.
okay.
And I think it's important to note that this is in the agricultural zone as a finding of fact.
Okay.
And then I was going to say that per our zoning ordinance, the section 304, the sawmill is a lumberyard as defined.
Yeah. Within the definition of a,
The zoning
Lumberyard.
ordinance. Within the definition of a lumberyard, yeah. As defined in our zoning ordinance.
he's writing over there.
Sorry, I went pretty quick.
Okay.
The subject lot has half acre, is a 2-acre lot, and I think the lots on both sides of it are a similar size.
Well, the neighbor says theirs is 2 acres as well.
Yeah, and then they bought a 2-acre lot between the two of them. That's what he said.
The
Okay.
neighbor did?
Yeah, I thought that was right in that letter, that he said,
Oh.
yeah, we bought an adjacent lot in between.
On the last page of the staff report, on the visual, it does definitely look like approximately double the size.
No, I wish I had a map, but, or a picture.
Right here.
Oh,
Am I making, did that read like that? Did they talk about, Benoit talk about that they bought the lot next door?
well, they mentioned something, but I didn't interpret it the same way.
Oh, okay.
They say, my wife and I, this is from the letter, my wife and I purchased our home with the intent of using the 2 acres separating my home from the sawmill for agriculture.
I thought that meant
So
that it was.
I think that they have a 2-acre lot, but maybe I was kind of envisioning that their home is more towards one end of it, and that their neighbor's property was at the other end of their property. But I
That's what I
didn't,
thought.
Okay.
I don't think they have the 2-acre lot. You know, there's a lot of land there, but there are some tight parcels.
Yeah, would you get that thing that showed the tax map on it there?
It's on the back.
Okay, so there is a 2-acre lot above it, and then below it, there's one larger lot. Oh, no,
2, 3, 4.
this is, as I see, there's 3 small lots in a row.
234003 is their lot, so that's the red one, yeah, that's their lot. So if they're below them, it's a bigger lot.
It's a bigger lot, I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
if the applicant's is 2 acres, that looks twice the size.
okay.
But, so I assume that because it's not really clear, I don't know where their house is positioned on that I'm assuming it was a good distance away.
Well, the building,
Oh,
the
those
the
white
map, if you look
dots.
at the actual tax map,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it shows buildings in the middle,
in the middle,
slightly closer to the proposed
Yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
it is slightly closer.
is that what those are, those little
That's,
white dots?
Little white dots.
that's how I saw it tonight too, when I was there,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, okay.
so how did that wind up reading?
Pardon me?
How did that wind up reading?
So it's not a
Yeah,
2-acre lot in between them?
What?
It's not a 2-acre lot in between them?
No, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, plus his 5 2-acre lots. that are adjacent to this one, and his is, and 1 4-acre lot,
The neighbor,
the neighbor.
Right.
the Benoits.
Yeah. My point being that it's residential like that.
Okay.
It does seem to be a little bit more in this area, somewhat residential in nature, even though it is zoned agriculture, right? I
Yeah.
mean, even a 2-acre lot's a big lot
It is nice,
for
yeah.
the residential, right? Like if it was
I just-
residential, but
These two,
where did you get these photos from? How did I get
I got it from him.
Thank you. I missed that
I know
part.
it's closed to the public, so do we have record on when the parcel was purchased? Because the images, the aerial images from 2020 to 2023 show a considerable difference. I'm assuming it was purchased 20 or 21. Do we have access to that?
I don't have that offhand. I could look in the, on the tax records and find that, but I don't have that information right now.
Okay.
If you'd like, I could find it.
All right.
Okay.
There's an,
the-
let's start, another finding of fact. There's an existing building that's being used as a sawmill. It has been used as a sawmill. And the proposed building is going to be 100 by 30. Is that correct?
The proposed building is 30 by 100, yeah.
30 by 100.
But that's the existing building that he has the sawmill in.
Right
There's
now.
there's a trailer on the lot, too.
I understand.
So it's and I guess it is a building. I mean, if it's a pole building. And so there is a partially completed pole barn with the sawmill in or around it, because the truck isn't in there.
It's not in there.
No. That's a full-size road truck.
Okay.
The poles have been set, potentially.
No, but not for the whole 100 feet, you said.
No, not at all.
Not for the entirety, and there hasn't, I don't know what the final plan is, but currently it's on what essentially a pallet, but a greatly enlarged pallet.
The saw.
And the testimony, as I understood it, was the ends were going to remain open for the things to come in and come out.
You had the back end closed, one side having an opening, and the front end being open.
Okay. Permanently open, not like a door.
That was my understanding,
Yeah.
correct?
Did you get that?
I believe so.
All right.
I think I'd like,
The neighborhood consists of single-family residents and mobile homes.
That's correct.
Is that a finding of fact?
The neighbors are single families and mobile homes.
The Walter Newton wilderness there, recreational area is down the street.
Close proximity.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was gonna make another finding about the letter. That we've received a complaint from, abutters of a noise hazard. Some operating the sawmill outside of, normal business hours. And that, that the noise especially seems to infringe upon their right to use their property as they would like to for animals
okay.
and gardening, it sounds like.
I think we should also, based on the testimony, the hours of operation have started as early as 7 in the morning
Which
and ended at 3 in the afternoon.
is 7 in the morning outside of the norm? Because like when I think about like those,
Well, that's just a fact.
it is just a fact, yes, yes, it is. I'm just saying like, when I think about those, you know, the tree people coming into my neighborhood, they start at 7 a.m.,
Sure,
right? They really do.
yeah.
Luckily, they're not there every day. I'd really be upset about that. But,
Who is that off the reservoir?
what?
Nothing.
No, sorry.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about when they came and did some tree removal in my neighborhood.
Oh.
And they started at
I'd like another
6:58,
finding.
7 a.m. every morning.
I'd suggest a finding that the road agent has allowed the moving in and the moving out of lumber on this road.
And that the applicant has worked with the town to find times that doesn't damage the road, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Another finding might be, other than the road, there really are no town services that are affected by this application,
It's true. Other than the road.
other than the road.
What's the scale on this map here? Do you have any idea?
I apologize, I don't actually have a scale on there, but
Sure. Okay.
it's about 1,400 feet from Texas Hill Road intersection to this property, if I remember correctly. If that helps give you any sense of.
Well,
a
Tom,
sense
if
of
it,
scale.
if it helps,
Well,
it's a 2-acre lot. If you look, it's about twice as long as it is wide, so
yeah,
it's
that's
probably 400,
200 feet.
so it's probably 400 by 200.
Yeah, I'm trying to get an estimate because there's actually, the Texas Hill houses there, to think that he's just that neighborhood isn't quite true, because this is a very rural area. I'm not
It
sure the
is pretty rural.
topos. But anyhow, I think you could say that there's other homes within earshot of that spot.
Well, that's, I think, what the
But
Benoit's letter suggested.
That's, okay.
All right. Any other findings of fact that we should consider?
Malik, with
Let's
your
get-
road concerns around, you know, pedestrians, we didn't really hear about that from the neighbors. I don't know that we have evidence of that, but
There's definitely, no, there is no.
There's no
evidence.
sidewalks.
there's no
That's what you
sidewalks.
want.
There are no sidewalks, there are no, breakdown lanes, there
yeah.
are no shoulders. It is I don't know the proper term, but it is a rustic road.
The rural
25
ro-
miles,
The rural road, yeah.
25
very-
miles per hour, you think, out there?
I
Probably, yeah.
believe.
I'm sure it's not even signed, right?
No.
How about, there are families located coming
This
to
is
the
a
road.
neighborhood.
It is a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It is a neighborhood. All right, I'm going to ask that we move forward then and start to talk about the requirements for a special exception.
Okay.
Is the proposed use allowed in this ordinance by special exception?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I do,
That-
I'm sorry. I was
that-
just-
It is. It's listed in the ordinance.
Okay.
In accordance with section 304 of the zoning ordinance, right? A lumberyard requires a special exception.
Yes. So it is a proposed use, is allowed by a special
You're
exception.
saying the lumberyard and the sawmill are the same thing.
Yeah,
The
per their
definition is that
definition.
of a lumberyard, which includes a sawmill.
yeah.
Explain how the specific site is appropriate location and adequate size for this use.
Somebody should.
So, appropriate location,
I think that's the keystone there.
yeah, that's the real,
That's a tight lot, I mean.
It is a 2-acre lot.
It's a 2-acre
It's a
lot.
2-acre lot. Is it adequate? I don't know if I know enough
the
about this.
site is adequate. The location is the question, at least for my concern of the road component. That lot was in a different area, same exact lot, it would definitely be appropriate. The location itself is what is of concern.
That's right. If it was, you know, it's not to say he can't do his operation on 2 acres, but the problem is that the people near him have small lots too. And that's a pretty dense use for
I
a
think-
small lot,
I think we're going to talk about that when we get to number 3.
I think that falls under number 3.
okay?
And I just want to correct the record because I see it on the application. The neighbor's lot below to the south is 5 acres. So we were guessing based on the size of the map it being 4. It says
Oh.
here from Joseph's notes it's 5 acres. And it has a number of accessory structures in the dwelling.
That's what shows, actually.
Yes, yes. It's hard to tell which is which from the map we have.
It does look more than twice as big.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So
so that's the one where the guy wants to raise the.
So I think we
animals.
have to parse this question, all right?
Okay.
The question, it's how the specific site is appropriate location and adequate size for the use. And I think
Sure.
what you said, the size is adequate. Is it an appropriate location for the use?
We're not doing the poll yet here, right?
We're not doing,
We're not voting yet.
no,
We're
we're,
just
No,
discussing.
we're just going over the criteria.
we're trying to go over the criteria.
Yeah, okay, yep.
I would say, yes, it is in the agricultural district.
Yeah.
It is appropriate location and adequate size.
All right. Explain how the use as developed will not adversely affect the character of the area in which the proposed use will be located.
I think this is where the neighbor's letter comes up, right?
That's right.
This is where the neighbor's letter says that it does affect the character of the area because it's more residential.
They found, I think the letter we could sum up, they found it bothersome.
Yes, that's a good word for it.
To them.
I see there's a rule in our ordinance about 70 decibels at the border.
Is there a rule?
You know, I try to explain to people that you can do whatever you want with your land, but when it goes over to your neighbor's land, whether it's noise or smoke or whatever, you don't have any rights to use his land like that. And that's the freedom that you have to be able to do whatever you want with your land also applies to them. And that's what kind of what we do, is protect everybody's rights.
Negative externality. Yeah. Let me ask the question this way. Is this what a neighbor should expect in the agricultural zone?
I would say some use. I think commercial use is a different thing, right? I mean, I know that commercial use is allowed, right, but all the time use of that level of noise, I think that's
Commercial use is allowed with
a special
site plan.
exception.
With
a
site plan. It might not need special exception,
Right.
but it would need a site plan for somebody to see where things
For
are going
commercial
in
use, yeah.
for commercial use.
So I think that there's a difference in the sawmill, personal use versus commercial, because commercial, it's a level, right? Regular day in, day out, 365 days a year, right? Like that's a different level.
Mm-hmm, okay. The next one we're going to be asked to consider is explain how there'll be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Well, you could put a restriction in there and tell them they gotta come over Texas Hill Road, but you better think twice about that.
Coming up the hill.
It's gonna have a lot of people.
I don't think the road falls in number 4. I think the road is 5, right? I think 4, this is serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, right? So this is like entering and exiting the property. This is the no sidewalks, right? If it would be high risk,
Yeah,
right, to people there. But I think the damage to the road would fall in 5.
oh, I wasn't referring to the damage, I was just
Okay.
saying that,
The general.
The
you,
general
Width.
road, right, the width of the road is small, yes. Which makes it, I think it could be if there were people walking with a big truck, right? But it's once a week, it's not a lot.
Okay?
Well, twice a week, in once, out once, right?
I think we've decided that number 5, there's no undue burden on town services or facilities from our discussion.
I think from our discussion, it isn't.
Yep.
right?
And number
It
6,
does try to mitigate damage to the road.
and number 6, explain how there'll be no significant effect resulting from such use upon the public health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood in which it would be used.
Public health,
kind of
safety.
a tough one to climb over.
I think if the neighbor went to sell their property and the mill was in operation, they'd have a hard time.
Don't they use that word anymore? No diminutive value on the surrounding properties?
That's in the
Variance.
variance criteria. This just talks about significant effect.
Yeah. Well,
Now what we're going to do is frame the answers to these questions as we see them and vote on each one as we go along, all right? The proposed use allowed in this ordinance by special exception. We've all agreed the answer to that
Yes.
question is
Yes.
yes?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
that's found to be true. Explain how the specific site is an appropriate location and adequate size for its use.
Yes,
You've agreed with that?
yes.
I will agree with the condition that the planning board should conduct a site plan review as a condition.
I don't think
They're
it's
gonna
an
look at,
appropriate
they're gonna look at
location.
things like drainage, they're gonna look at things like, the size of the lot versus where the building is, egress and access, those are the things that they take up, that we don't look at.
I would find that true with that condition, David.
I mean,
I would find that true with that condition.
okay, true with the condition,
What,
the planning board agrees.
Do
What-
others agree?
you just voted true on number 2? It's a specific site, is its appropriate location and of adequate size.
With,
I understand it's a adequate size, but I mean, that's a stretch to say this is an appropriate location.
I just think what
Well, let's
you're
get Tom
concerned
out.
about, I think it falls somewhere else. I mean, you could always vote no, but I think the residential piece comes up under the nuisance.
Okay, well, you get attorneys picking the things apart, and that's, in other words, you're saying that isn't an appropriate location.
Based
I
on
think-
the stipulation
My
of the.
problem is that, yeah, but that's, so we're saying we're gonna send him to a planning board
Right, for number 2.
for number 2.
We're gonna
And
look-
then they're gonna say, go back and get, oh, well, then we will have given him a special exception.
If the planning board were to approve it
I see.
as a site,
As a
No,
it's a
condition.
physical site
Yeah.
that's appropriate.
Okay,
So with the condition that site plan review has to occur with their criteria.
Okay.
Number 3, how the use developed will not adversely affect the character and area in which the proposed use is located.
Yeah. I think this one is false.
I agree.
Unless the people can think of other conditions. But
We vote and discuss it.
We're gonna write out what goes in the little box, and then we're gonna vote on it.
Okay.
And I think one of the ingredients in the little box should be that this is a neighborhood of homes on relatively small lots for the agricultural zone,
Up the street from a recreational area.
up and, yeah, down the street, yeah, up the
Up
street,
the street, okay.
okay? That's, Joseph, have you got that?
So neighborhood of smaller lots up street from a recreation area. And so were we saying that's
With, in the neighborhood with other homes,
in a neighborhood with
all right?
homes? So would that, are we saying that's, was that a vote
We
in
have to-
favor of that condition, or
Pardon me?
was that a vote in favor of that
You
criteria?
haven't
or-
voted yet.
Sure.
No. Will this, as proposed, adversely affect the character of the area in which it's located?
I think, yes.
You think?
Yeah.
I think it will,
You think it will?
as, without a ton of conditions put on it.
Okay, do you believe that?
Well, wait a
Also-
minute, wait, you got a will not here, right? The uses developed will not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood.
And we're going to decide if it will or it will not.
Okay.
And what
that's
I'm saying is, without extensive conditions, it will adversely
Well,
affect.
that's what I
does.
thought you were saying, yeah.
it does seem to affect
All right?
the criteria, the
So you're saying it will adversely affect.
Yeah,
Right, Tom,
Yes.
do you agree with that?
yes.
Stephanie? Okay, we all agree that it will adversely affect the neighborhood. Do you think there are conditions that we could put on that would change that?
It's hard, because, I don't specialize in this, right? So, but how do you get the noise down, right? Putting up walls on the sides of the,
Well, the best evidence we have is the Benoit's letter.
From my standpoint, I mean, I wrote out a few of the potential conditions. I
Okay.
mean, one of them, enforcement of noncompliance to stipulations purely based off of the Benoit's letter. But also, the direction of the truck deliveries in and out, I would, from my standpoint, I would say, for the town's benefit, we would, regardless of his attempts to work within the timeframes, that it would want to go out Texas Hill, personally, without
It is
being an
paved.
expert. It's paved and it's wider as well, and there's less tight turns. It's, gross weight of the road is something I'm not sure of, but I'm curious of. But rezoning to commercial, and then as far as the sides, complete enclosure with retractable doors on the pole barn, large bay doors to facilitate the logs, but at the same time be able to enclose so that the sound effects are dampened for the neighborhood.
Is that something that the
With all
planning
those-
board could that
Yeah,
they
we have-
specialize in,
No, we have to make a finding based on the application.
based on the
Yeah,
application?
I mean, he's coming to us and saying, I want to do this.
Yes,
And it's not our position to mold that to be what we want and to tell him construction techniques or, you know, that's not our job.
Our
He
job.
brought this application, there it is. You know, does that work or not? If it doesn't, well, you know, we're already giving him all this information, trying to direct him in a way that, you know, he can understand what we were concerned about.
Okay,
But I don't think.
I'd suggest the following, from what you've said, that the noise and the traffic create an adverse impact on the neighborhood.
That's good.
Agreed.
All in favor of that? That's your
Aye.
finding, Stephanie?
Sure.
Tom?
Aye, yeah.
True.
Ally?
Aye.
Okay, that's a finding of the board. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. Is number 4.
We got the same thing. I think there is a hazard.
I have the same answer.
Like all that traffic up and,
Yeah, it's the same
yeah, that's a
answer.
nuisance, you know, not to keep learning on, we don't need to lean on Vernoit. It's kind of obvious that, you know, running a sawmill,
Well, this is,
subdivision.
this is, however, really, if
No.
you look at it, there's a nuisance issue, which is the noise. And,
Noise, and then the serious hazard is
So the
the,
serious hazard
And the other
is,
part is the use of the road.
yeah.
There's a noise hazard and a traffic hazard on a small country road. Number 5 was dealt with, assume you're going to vote on number 4.
True.
True?
no,
True to
no,
what- true to
no,
what-
no,
Your
false.
finding
false.
True to our finding. which
is what I was saying,
We do believe it violates number 4.
but it violates number 4.
Explain about undue burden on the town. I think we've already discussed that. There is no undue burden on the
That
town.
doesn't seem to be a problem.
He works with a road agent.
Because he works with the road agent, right? I think,
So all in favor of that number 5 is passed?
true?
Find number 5 true. And number 6, explain how there'll be no significant effect resulting from the use upon the public health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood.
There would be. There would be a significant effect on the public health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood due to noise and traffic.
Noise and, how do you feel about them, Malik?
I agree. And yes, I agree to that.
Okay. Stephanie?
True.
So we are finding that the noise and the traffic are a safety and welfare issue in the neighborhood. All right, that being the case, we've got several criteria that haven't been met at this point.
Yeah.
We have to now vote on whether to grant the special exception or not, based on our findings and rulings.
Want a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we deny the application.
Second?
And the motion's been made and seconded that we deny the application. All in favor of the motion as made, raise your hand. It's unanimous that the application be denied. Thank you. Do we have any unfinished business, Joseph, that we need to look at?
No unfinished business that I'm aware of at this time.
All right. Any new business anybody wants to talk about? No? I do have some other business.
You do?
Yeah. I think it's very likely that I'll have a conflict if we have a meeting in April. So Stephanie, you've got to be ready to run a meeting.
Okay, you got it, David.
Great, hope we get an application.
Well, we ran shorthanded tonight.
Oh, that's too bad Peter didn't come, but
I don't think the results would have been any different, so it's harsh, but it is common sense,
It is.
in my view.
okay, motion to adjourn?
Seconded? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Joseph, thank you so much for your thorough report.
Yes.
You do such a nice job.